everybody, back with the SRC podcast thingamahoosit. We were gonna have a podcast last week, but that would have doubled our production costs. I will either kill that joke or never let it die.
It never
Probably
should
kill it.
die. They made a bad decision, and they should feel bad.
Oh my god, I don't remember what game it was, but there was a game where they got an email and they're like, can you play as female characters? And then they were like, yeah, you can. And they showed a model and the female character looked a lot like an assassin. And it's like, you can play as a girl, you can play as a guy.
Oh, that was the narwhal
Sunset
thing.
something, or that, whatever.
It was the poorly drawn narwhal game.
Narwhal game?
I don't know. I
Sunset
saw
Overdrive. Tucker gets it. I knew it was Sunset something. Anyway, yeah, we should probably do our podcast now. I am King, and I'm back with King, because there's two of me now. And still Newmies on Tumblr. I made that minimal effort freezer burn bike riding thing. That was literally no effort. Now, someone else introduce themselves before I blather on and bore people.
I'm Emmy. I haven't been around for a couple weeks, but I'm happy to be back. It's nice to be back. I'm Ruby Rose on Tumblr, and yeah.
I'm Zextrin, Chrissy. I'm back. And, you know who I am. Next person. I'm back to keep y'all in line. You guys were gonna discuss spoilers last time. I'm here to slap you when you get out of line.
I kept the peace. I'm
She did.
Kemi Colon. I kept the peace last time, and Chrissy's still mad at me.
You were causing part of the turmoil because you really wanted to hit me. I caused most of the turmoil, but you were causing the rest of it.
And Kemi said a word that we're not supposed to use.
Yeah, Kemi.
Oh.
Just saying.
I'm
Anyway,
sorry. I was worked up.
it's okay. Anyway,
It
let's
was
go to
Yang's
the next.
muscles. How could I not be worked up?
Okay. It's just saying.
Oh, passion.
Okay, I guess I'll go with it. This is Frump Grump. I was here last time. I'm glad to be back on again. Zextrin. And I'm Frump Grump on Tumblr, same name, so easy to remember.
Kemi's down to Kemi Nolan.
Kemi Nolan. Kemi Colon.
Oh my god, I meant to send that picture to Kemi.
Oh.
Not that picture, but there was another one.
I'm such a confused person right now.
So, conversation topics.
Wait, did everyone introduce themselves already?
Or, yeah.
I mean, I think at this point I can unmute my mic, so I'm Ave Supra, and I'm still here, sort of, most of the time. I might be muted most of their way or part of the way through. Not sure yet.
Too bad.
Okay, so yeah, what are our list of discussion for this podcast? Can I write them down? Oh, here they are.
They're right there.
I'm one step ahead of you, Chrissy.
Thank you so much. Let me put this in a separate notepad, just so we don't lose it.
Alright, we're gonna... we don't necessarily have to... We can do the first topic we have, but we're gonna hold off on the second one for now. Of course, that's if someone has something to say about the first topic.
Well, the first topic, I like to say that, the first topic on the list is neat Ruby or Rooster Teeth things you've seen lately from the fandom or otherwise. I guess it's been con season or something, but I've seen a huge surge in cosplay and amazing weapons being designed and made, and lots of cool pictures, and it's really, it is con season. So the tag is old photos, and it's so awesome to see so many people just, we made it! Ruby made it! People are cosplaying it in cons. There's meetups for it. It's awesome. And also, there have been a few gender bends.
Ooh.
I've been seeing a lot of gender bent artwork of all the Ruby girls as cis dudes, and I like it a lot.
On the topic of cosplayers, there are people who have made fully functioning crescent roses,
What?
and that terrifies me.
How?
God.
Those people are to be
Why?
feared and respected.
They
Like,
should.
are they-
I mean, people. Who,
Like, the only thing they don't do is shoot things.
They're gonna inherit the earth because it's only a few steps away from actually making Crescent Rose.
Exactly.
So
So we are to fear and respect them. And
Like, are they actually strutting around cons with sniper rifles or something?
no, like
No.
it collapses. It folds into itself.
Oh
Like
my
they have the
God.
collapsible bit all done. All they need to do is add the rifle.
I saw someone have like a working gamble shroud that it went from sword to pistol, and I'm like, how, what, why? Mostly how. Oh, Emmy wants to go. Emmy, you're up.
Okay, so I remember like a really long time ago, back when like only the trailers for RWBY were coming out. Like I think there was this like when the white trailer came out, like it was right before a weekend that there was a convention, and somebody like finished their cosplay like right before the convention,
Wow.
and then Monty was like, this is amazing and ridiculous. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy, and and I think like a couple months later, my friend she designed a bunch of gender bends, and then she got really like ecstatic because Monty like retweeted them or something, and then
Oh.
a couple months after that, like a guy asked her, was like, oh, do you mind if I cosplay your gender bend design? And she's like, not at all, go ahead. And they actually went and they made like a cosplay based off her gender bend design, and then of course she was ecstatic, and it was just really cool to see, like, because even like with like the fan made stuff, like people like jump all over it, and it's really exciting. And I think it's really cool about RWBY because the character designs are just so there's just something about them, like even back when they were in the trailer stages, like people looked at the characters and were like, oh, they've got a story, you can tell, and we want to like cosplay them already, and it's just so cool, and I have so much respect, and that's what kind of inspired me to like finally bite the bullet and cosplay too, because I never cosplayed anything before, and I was like, I'm cosplaying RWBY, that's it. So, case in point, Monty is an inspiration, and all his artists are amazing, and good characters, and that's all I have to say because I'll just get mushy.
Well, you sort of reminded me of the thing where like you were talking about fans and cosplay and all that, like how I don't remember it. If I can remember how to talk, that's apparently a staple in every podcast. I have to stumble over my words. Anyway, I remember a while ago. I don't remember if I had seen it on the SRC Tumblr or on Dory's Tumblr, but someone had like asked for a reference for SRC RWBY because they wanted to cosplay SRC RWBY, and I'm like, holy crap, that's awesome. I don't know how you're going to make all the armor, but I'm not a cosplayer, so I don't know how you do that anyway.
Tinfoil.
And apparently Chrissy wants CR, so have the handmade collapsible crescent rose.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that sort of building off what Emmy said, there's just something about RWBY that really sparks the imagination, and it almost encourages you to fill in the blanks yourself, which I think is what's behind the creative... this sounds pretentious, no matter which way I want to say it. Creative endeavors that encourage a lot of input from the fans are the ones who tend to have the most fanatic fans, because they get engaged. It becomes personal. There's something of them in it. They have stock in it. There's a connection there between the consumer and the producer. And then the consumer starts producing things, and the line starts getting really blurry. And it's a little frightening at times because, like, you know that the RWBY crew has their eye on the tags. It's frightening to know that they're... But at the same time, it's kind of cool.
They have an eye on the tags. They know all the stuff we've done.
They know.
all the terrible...
They know everything.
Yeah.
all of the terrible things I have concocted.
Oh god.
Well, I just hold on to the hope that they have the safe search function on.
Yeah.
Because there is an option, you can go on Tumblr and you can click on the little padlock and it'll be like, no, you don't want to see not safe for work content? Good. We will block not safe for work content. And they can go through the tag without having their, the need to go get their brain bleached.
Ugh.
All right, Kemi, you talk.
Yeah, on the topic of Rooster Teeth and Ruby Crew seeing our tags, has anybody considered the fact that they probably know what we're doing here? Like, they know
only
They
all
totally know.
SRC.
They know.
They know.
I know they
I
know.
know everything.
And that is terrifying.
Yeah.
No, I won't rant about that. You told me to wait.
On this topic, I think it is good to mention that I have actually secretly been Miles Luna this entire time.
Damn it, Miles!
Oh, the Sean arc was terrible, and you should feel bad. You should feel awful.
I tried to tell him, you need to have a Yang arc, you need to have a Blake arc, but he wouldn't listen to me. He said, no, we need a Jean arc, because his name is Jean Arc.
Mhm.
Well, if it was for the pun, I can almost forget it.
Almost.
Yeah, if it were just a long, elaborate pun, like Barb suggested it, we should do this instead. Put off my arc, put off Yang's arc, do this. This is a pun, it's hilarious. I'd forgive it.
Just like an 8-episode arc, and then it just ends with like a really lame pun, and you're just like, I've been waiting 8 episodes for this pun. I am so glad I waited 8 episodes for this pun.
I wouldn't even be mad. Make it so.
Oh my god, guys, 12-minute episodes. I remember that from a tweet. Everything's gonna be 12 minutes, thank God.
Yes! That also... The cool thing about Ruby and Rooster Teeth is that they have such a close connection to the fandom and the fans. They actually actively listen to us, and then they implement the criticisms that we've levied against them. You know, one of my major, criticisms of the show was that it was too short. I mean, it was too short for what they wanted to do. They needed longer episodes. Even if there was a longer wait between the episodes, that was okay. As long as they...
We would have waited.
Yeah, we would have waited. I mean, obviously it's easy to say that now, hindsight 2020. But after they did it, they finished Volume 1. They looked at what people were saying. They're like, okay, a lot of people have a problem with this, and we think that they want to do this, so we're just going to have longer waits between episodes for the longer episodes to tell the story we want to tell.
Aww.
I know.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, Emmy, sorry.
Okay. I'm so sorry. No, the only thing about the longer episodes now is that I can't watch them on my break at work anymore because every Ruby Thursday, because I couldn't take off every Thursday. I think I took off 5 Thursdays, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna get suspicious. So I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And so I every time it was a Thursday and I got my 10-minute break, I'd run out to the roof of the library because I work in the city building and we're connected to the library. So and it has a courtyard on top. So I'm like, come on, give me a signal, and I'd load it as fast as I could and I'd try to watch it in my 10 minutes, and I'm like, come on, buffer faster, and just begging it, this sobbing girl on the library roof every Thursday, and just trying to get my Ruby episodes alone. And I think those days are going to be over. I'll just have to wait till I get home.
Someone goes up, ma'am, what are you crying about? Colorful lesbians.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't watch my colorful lesbians anyway. A while ago, when I actually finally managed to get my friend to finish watching Ruby because he had gotten to episode 6 and then he kept falling asleep. So I finally got him to finish watching it. And I don't remember what episode it was, but it was one of the episodes that ended in this sort of half cliffhanger. And he was like, play the next episode, hurry up. And I'm like, no, I'm going to sit here for a minute so you can get a modicum of what it was like when I was watching this live, when I watched a 5-minute episode and had to wait another full week for another 5-minute episode. It was very stressful. But then I played it because I wanted to see the episode again.
Being Rwanda is suffering. Yeah, I also recently got a job. Yay! So, but the thing is, when we were discussing my hours, when I was going to be working, they were like, is there any day you would like off?
Oh my god.
I'm like, I can work this is me internally. Obviously, at work I'm very professional. But internally I'm thinking, yes, I can ask for Thursdays off. Ruby Thursday is alive and ready. I can be there. I got I got the subscription. I can watch it, 2 hours early, whenever. I got the whole thing down. And then I'm like, oh, if it's at all possible, Thursday would be ideal. And they said, no, actually, we need you the most on Thursdays. So.
Oh my gosh, that's what it is at my work too. They need me the most on Thursdays too. What
Yes,
is it about Thursdays?
I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I was asking if it was available. If it's not, that's fine. But on the inside, I'm like, no!
Fall to your knees and cry to the heavens.
Any day but Ruby Thursday. I would work all the week except Thursday. Just give me this. Give me this.
Go to Monty. Monty, can you make it Ruby Tuesdays so I can request Tuesdays off?
I was so mad. I'm like, you motherfuckers. It could have been Ruby Tuesday. I get Tuesday off.
Oh my God, Ruby
Tuesday's
Tuesdays.
the day I get off. They could have been Ruby Tuesday. It could have
That was a
prophecy.
That was
I hope that was unintentional.
That was a complete accident, but it was such a glorious accident. Okay, Emmy, you go.
It's just like really quick, but like now I have a plan for like the days that I'm gonna get sick. It sounds terrible, but like we barely get a day off anyway, so I'm like I'll minimize it this time. I won't take off 5 days. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get quote unquote sick on the day that the first episode comes out, and the day that the 8th, and the day that the 16th. I'll get sick on those days, and then I'll stay home and watch the extra long ones.
I can't spell Ruby anymore. I tried to write the actual word Ruby, and I spelled it RWBY.
You're in too deep.
I'm in balls deep.
Balls deep.
I was waiting.
Ruby Tuesday. Oh, I was done, by the way. I'm done.
Okay, so we've gotten... Oh, wait, Chrissy has the thing saved. Chrissy, can you repost the topics? Because we've gotten quite off topic, but it was okay, just...
Of course. We've got... hold up.
Okay,
Sorry.
the everyone speaking with an accent was just a joke. We don't have to do that unless someone has, like, a really cool accent.
Thank you, Tucker. I don't have any accents. I can sort of get into a southern kind of accent a little bit, but it's kind of dumb. And I haven't practiced my British accent in a while, so let's not embarrass myself and any British people listening, even though I know there's a million different actual...
What's all this, then?
Yeah.
Want to take a ride on the lorry?
Oh,
I can't do it anymore. I used to be able to do it. Hello, governor. There we go.
So next on the subject is writing and arting. Writers! I mean, this sounds biased now because I'm saying it, but on the list itself, writers are first. I'm just saying. Okay. Writers!
I made the list. I made the list because artists had Your Day in the Sun on the last podcast.
That's because we're awesome.
Okay.
You were
So
awesome
right-
until you said one of the banned words.
Oh, Ken.
no.
Gang muscles are-
You did. You said a bad word. Okay.
One demerit.
Which writers have influenced your writing style?
Mm,
If you have an answer for that. Actually, if an artist also has an answer for which influenced your art style, go ahead. Whoever has CR, go for it. And musicians, because we have Tucker in the chat.
I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing at what I wrote. I'm sorry. That was badly timed.
King can go first.
Okay. Well, no, because I'm gonna try and organize my thoughts before I just blather on for 10 minutes. So you go.
Okay, so as a musician with other musicians who have influenced me, a big one that hasn't come out in what I've done for SRC yet is just in general, Neil Young has been really huge influencing my guitar playing. But other than that, for more general things, which has probably bled into the SRC stuff, is all the band members of Tool, Adam Jones, Justin Chancellor, and Danny Carey, just for a lot of things, but specifically in Yang's theme, I think I might have gone a lot from Mark Knopfler and like Sultans of Swing and stuff like that.
High
That
five!
sort of style, especially with the rhythm on the acoustic guitar and some of the licks on the electric lead I put on for the demo version.
Hell yeah! Mark Knopfler. Oh,
Oh, is it my turn now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I
Sure.
kind of want Emmy to go before me because I was a butthead to her.
No, I'm just serious. It's okay.
Okay, well, let's see. Writers who have influenced my writing style. Well, for one, I kind of have to. I feel like I've talked about this before, but I do kind of have to name Christopher Paolini because he's the guy that made me go like, oh, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So, in a way, that's sort of an influence. And just, I'm actually not sure why I ever started doing this or what made me start doing this, but I'm just going to pretend it was Tamora Pierce because, like, so many of my OCs are female. Like, sometimes I would just be at school and I would start drawing someone and all of a sudden it's a girl. And I'm like, okay, well. So I'm going to cite Tamora Pierce for my writing style being most of my female characters being my OCs. And I feel like there's a million people I could name, but
Right?
like it's all like most of it is just everyone's like had these tiny little influences. Like no one's like Christopher Paolini and J.K. Rowling are probably the biggest because they were the big books I read that made me want to write and stuff. One of my friends kind of influenced my writing because I've had discussions about this with Kemi because like I write high fantasy usually, and one of the problems you get with high fantasy is that all of the characters are overpowered as crap. And I've been guilty of that for a very long time. I made so many OP characters. They were so OP. And then one day my friend was like, Wyatt, they're too OP. I understand a little OP, but these guys are too OP. So after that, I went back and I significantly cut down at least one character's abilities. I cut down another character's abilities. And then by extension, Kemi also did that because she was giving me 10 kinds of crap for one of the characters I had being God-touched or like the child of a god or whatever it was. And then, I figured out that, she didn't really need to be God-touched, so there's just like 1,000 people that influenced my writing style. Okay, Emmy, now you go, because now I'm kind of blathering.
Okay. I think, like, of course, like, maybe, like, from least specific to most specific, like, when I was little and I was first starting to read fan fiction, like, that was sort of like the gateway drug to writing. I was like, oh, look at all this, I can read all about my favorite characters. And then, like, when I was little, I also grew up, like, on the Deltora Quest series, like, written by Emily Rada, and I love her writing style so much because, Deltora Quest. People are freaking out in the chat.
Nobody I know has read them as well, so
I read them. I read all of the main books, and I read, like, the Shadowlands sequel books, too. Like, nobody reads those books, and I'm like, they're so good. But I really love her writing style because, like, it was, like, she wrote them as, like, books for kids mostly, but like they're like her style is just so universal. Like it's got universal appeal to like adults and like anybody who reads it. You can flip it. Like I love it. You can open it up to any page and it will suck you in no matter where you open it in or open it up in because her writing is just that good and like it's really compelling. And she treated the kids that she wrote for, she treated them as people instead of like kids, and she like I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's like I'm really passionate about Deltora Quest.
We're gonna have to talk about that later, you and I.
Oh yes, we're gonna have a chit chat about Deltora Quest.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is like she treated the kids as like people to write for instead of like kids to write for. Like I mean, like I think like also because I'm a preschool teacher and I like you see kids as people, like as their own whole person instead of somebody incomplete that like you have to adjust for. I mean, it's like the kids are pretty smart, and they can handle like the kind of stuff that she writes about. Like she writes it like in a way that like everybody can like is what I really like. And so Deltora Quest, huge influence. Love it. Love all the books. Jasmine was my favorite character. I'm just gonna throw that out here right now. And I hate what the anime adaptation did to her character. So
I didn't see it.
Oh,
It's
don't.
anime.
Just don't. They turned her into a textbook tsundere. Sorry, spoilers. but it's bad. So anyway, Emily Rada, that's where my heart is.
We're gonna have to bond over this later.
Of course. All right, who's next? There's
As king.
I had like three small points because like I'm feeling a little left out here because I don't think I ever read Deltora Quest, and I think it's because like I got it at my middle school library once. Like I checked out one of the books, and the problem was I found another book shortly after that distracted me, and I completely forgot about Deltora Quest. Because that's one of my problems. I get a book, I find another book, the other book interests me more, and then I completely forget about the other book, even though it was probably just as interesting. And about like talking to kids like they're people, or like treating the kids like people instead of kids. For some reason, that reminded me of like a gift set about George R.R. Martin I saw forever ago, where like the interviewer was like, people are really interested in your female characters. Like, why are like people so interested in your female characters and stuff? And he's like, well, see, I don't write them as women, I write them as people. And I was like,
yeah,
that's
I remember
a good
that.
point.
Mm-hmm.
And my final point was I randomly remembered with influencing my writing style, where a while ago I read my first Discworld book by Terry Pratchett.
Woo!
How long ago? And I still have a small collection of Terry Pratchett, but when I was reading Soul Music, that's what it was. I was reading it, and I'm like, wait a minute, there aren't any chapter markings. Why aren't there any chapter markings? And like, there's no like chapter 1, chapter 2. It's just like paragraph breaks between like specific points. But there's no like chapters or anything. And then I got about halfway through Soul Music, and I'm like, wait a minute. Does this mean I don't have to do chapters? Because I always suck at separating chapters. Because I'm like better at separating paragraphs than chapters. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to do this? Holy crap, this just made writing like 10 times easier. At least for me. All right.
Whew. Wow.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts about writing and authors and stories. I have a big list that I just threw into the chat. I mean,
You did.
like
Good
writers who influenced me in one way or another, like for different things. Christopher Pike, he wrote about, a lot of his protagonists were females, teenagers. They had, I guess, thought processes similar to mine. I didn't read a lot of books about girls before that. So reading about all of these girls was so, like, mind-opening to me, because he wrote them just as people. They were heroic, and they were sometimes cowardly, and sometimes they were perverted, and you know, they had normal thoughts. They were normal humans. They felt real, even when they were like OP, like his vampire series. The main character gets really overpowered, but it's fun. It's escapism, and it's fun to read about a girl who's just completely like godlike powers. And I think it was after that I started actively looking for books that had Tamora Pierce. Tamora Pierce is famous for, I think, out of 20-something books, only one male protagonist. Yeah, and it's all fantasy, and it's all and they've gotten progressively better. Like each Tamora Pierce book is just better and better about different things, about pacing, about representation, about creating characters who aren't all white and rich or powerful or noble or whatever, like different walks of life. So just a lot of authors who write about strong female protagonists and weak female protagonists and protagonists in between and female protagonists who are human.
Varied characters.
Varied characters, yeah. Like, especially the Aberson series by Garth Nix. Holy crap. If you haven't read those books, you need to, because they're better than anything you've ever read, ever.
Alana.
A lot of writers cite, I guess, Neil Gaiman as one of their influences, too. He's just so prolific and well-known. Lately, I've sort of fallen out of love with him, but he used to be one of my idols, so. And then, and I guess the biggest influence on me ever probably was A Wrinkle in Time.
Hey.
A Wrinkle in Time, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's just one of those things that sticks with you forever, I think, when you read it as a kid. And His Dark Materials and there's 3 of them. There's His Dark Materials, A Wrinkle in Time, and The Chronicles of Narnia. Those 3, because they're all portal fiction. Like Magician's Nephew, the first book in the series, they're all about these kids. They get sucked into another world. They get sucked into this drama, and something about the idea that there is magic out there. We just can't touch it because that portal is in place. Really appealed to me as a kid, and it still appeals to me now. And things where it's like magic exists in our world, it's just, it's just hidden. There's that hidden world. That sort of thing appeals to me, like Digimon and Harry Potter and Animorphs. When I was a kid, I would pet animals and try to suck their DNA so that to see if I was an Animorph. I would concentrate really hard. I'd be like, what does it feel like in the books? They feel calm. The animal calms down. I'm petting you really hard. I'm trying to concentrate. I try.
I don't know how many times I've stood in my room and tried to summon fire in my hand.
And I've tried to fly and, suck DNA out and go Super Saiyan and use magic. Everyone has. I think everyone has done that at one point or another. And I love portal adventures. I love magic adventures. I love things like that. Things that if you just push hard enough, you could reach that magic world. And also,
I'm sorry, Emmy said something.
It's okay. And obviously, manga and anime are big influence as well. Especially the fact that they always, to my eyes, I don't know if this is actually true, were more lax about gender sometimes, even though actual Japanese culture is different. In the manga that I was exposed to as a kid, like Host Club and W. Juliet, was one of the few sort of queer things I was allowed to read because my mom's super homophobic. She had She had a really good gaydar, and she knew what was gay specifically so that she could refuse me to let me watch it or whatever. Because, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. But then, with stuff like W. Juliet and Host Club, the characters were sort of queer, but they were straight. I was like, look, the girl's in love with the boy. I can read this. Isn't that great? Woo! So, yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, that's my main influence, is all of that stuff.
Okay. My influences vary because I have a lot of influence from animators and their loose sort of pencil style and that sort of bit. On the topic of, because I do a little bit of writing, not for SRC, but I do some writing. Christy, if you haven't read it, go ahead, mention it.
I know I went on a super long tangent, but I forgot to mention that J.K. Rowling's foreshadowing blew me away as a kid. Because that was like, oh my god, it's that little thing she mentioned way back when. It was the first book that had a lot of replay value, that you could read it again and you could pick out all the threads. I wanted to write that. I wanted to write stuff like that. And I still do. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yes, no, J.K. Rowling, I feel like, is an inspiration to us all.
I wouldn't be reading without her. At least not me. I don't know.
So we've got J.K. Rowling. As far as Neil Gaiman goes, if you haven't read Sandman, I recommend doing it. That's a comic. It's very good. It's very cerebral. It's very fuck you up. And what else is really good? As far as my art goes, I was inspired a lot by Amanda Connor's run with Power Girl, because Power Girl has always sort of been like a joke. I see her a lot like Yang, actually. She's busty, she's blonde, people sort of don't really take her seriously because, like, oh, look at how big your boobs are. But she drew pipes on this girl. Like, she had huge Amazonian arms. And I loved that. I thought that was great. Like, that, I feel like, inspired a lot of the way I handle women in my art because, you can have women of all different shapes and sizes, whereas animation, comics, all that stuff sort of keeps to that one same central figure for women. And video game art inspires me a lot. whenever I do anything artistic, I want something to pull me in and like I want something to pull me in and get me emotionally invested. And for that, Ruby did a really good job, I feel like, with getting me emotionally invested. Particularly in Blake, I just wanted to like hug the hell out of that girl and tell her it was all going to be okay.
Just wrap her in blankets, give her a cup of hot cocoa, all that good
John
stuff.
gets nothing from me. But one of the biggest things that has ever pulled me in and made me care to the point where it was physically harmful was Mass Effect. And Mass Effect inspires a lot of what I do because the characters were so well-rounded and they pull you in and you care about them. And the designs, I've got the art book for Mass Effect, that's beautiful. The designs are fantastic. The story is incredible and it's an epic. It feels like it's structured in such a way that it could be a Greek myth, like it could be the Odyssey. It's this, and it's just fantastic. And that sort of thing that pulls you in and makes you care is just like, that's what I want. Like, more than anything, more than the good action sequences, which Ruby has, so good for them, more than, you know, characters that people peel their clothes off for. I want characters and a story that drag people in and force them to care, even if they try not to. And that's when you know you've got a good story, because you want people to be afraid for what could happen when you like you want people, you don't want people to know that everything's going to be okay for their favorite character, because then what's the point? You want people to be like, shit, this is a really serious situation. You know, what if my favorite doesn't make it out? And Mass Effect does that, and other stories do that. But Mass Effect is my big inspiration behind a lot of what I do. Because if you screw up enough, everything's going to go wrong. And I like that. I'm a big fan of video games because of the interactive storytelling aspect to it. And it's like choose your own adventure books. I loved those as a kid because I got to feel like I was the one on the adventure instead of reading about Harry Potter being on the adventure. I loved Harry Potter, don't get me wrong, but I loved the idea that I could be on this adventure and I could be somewhere else. Like that was appealing to, I was in the hospital as a kid, so that was really appealing to me in particular. But you know, that sort of thing, something that makes you feel for the characters and makes you think about what the next step should be, or, you know, that sort of thing. Something that gets the rage out of you that I got in the 6th book when Harry did something stupid and I threw it and I was like, God damn it.
He always did stupid things.
Something that gets a rise out of you, that's what it's all about. That's what creating art and writing and music and anything. That's what I want and am inspired by. It's something that make you care and get a rise out of you. And that I also like the interactive story thing and Mass Effect and all that sort of stuff, because it's one of the few mediums in which we get to be like, you know what, I want to be a girl. With everything else, it's sort of, you know, when people write, you know, there's authors who, you know, obviously don't do that. But most of the time you're going to run into male protagonists, and that gets boring as a girl. Like, it's so boring as a young kid when you're like, none of these heroes are like me.
You know what else is good though? Lesbians.
What?
Lesbians.
Lesbians are great. I love
Lesbians
anything
are very
that I can be a lesbian.
Yeah, very inspirational lesbians to my development.
Yeah. Yeah, I could rant forever, so somebody take it. I'll continue talking if somebody doesn't talk for me.
Okay, well, now that you've brought that up again, I don't know if you brought it up again on purpose, but I'll slide in about female characters again, because I have a story where in my English composition class, the teacher was like, who are some of your favorite writers? And I was like, Tamora Pierce. And she's like, okay, why? And I'm like, well, she writes things good. She has female protagonists, or like strong female protagonists. They're not like your standard female protagonists and all that stuff.
They're not like whatchamacallit. I just recently read this. Sorry, go on.
Well, I'm trying to get my thoughts in order to remember exactly what happened. And then, like, at some point, I brought up that the part of the to my understanding, I don't remember where I read this, but one of the main reasons that Tamora Pierce wrote strong female characters and, like, interesting female characters and all that good stuff was because when she was growing up and she was reading her fantasy books, there were, like, no... Hang on a sec. Okay, well, I'll just keep going instead of typing.
Warded Man. Oh, okay, sorry. I just recently read a book called The Warded Man where there was a strong female protagonist, except every conflict surrounded the fact that she was a woman, that she was constantly under threat of getting raped, and once she does get sexually assaulted, and then she immediately gets over it to have sex with the other protagonist. And it's so bad. I literally I was like, I'm done. I threw it in the garbage.
Okay, well, real quick sidetrack. For some reason, I still think it's... Oh, God, I don't know if whatever. I still think it's kind of funny with Tamora Pierce's characters, where in the Song of the Lioness, Alana is sleeping with guys, like, halfway through the second book. But then with Daine, I hope to God I'm saying her name right, Daine and the Immortals Quartet, she doesn't even kiss the guy that she likes until the last book. And I just always thought it was funny that their characters were so different that their romantic things were that far apart. But backing up, when I was telling my professor about that, I was like, yeah, when she was a kid, she was reading all these fantasy books, and she didn't feel like there were very many strong female characters in fantasy at the time. They were probably all mostly like sort of like The Warded Man, where their main conflicts were like, oh, I'm pretty, who am I going to be pretty to? Like, I'm just here as an accessory to the big buff man character. And I didn't exactly say that. I just sort of said when she was a kid, she felt there was a lacking of good female characters. And my teacher was like, oh, well, I don't know about that. And I'm just sitting there like, well, I don't know what books you were reading. I'm just telling you what Tamora said. So you can shut up. I almost stood up and just argued her, but it was early in the morning and I didn't feel like yelling at people. And, okay, since I stole it from Frump can have CR.
Okay. Well, I'm mostly... Well, I'm the artist, so I won't say I don't read, but I don't have as much to say about reading so much. I've been getting a lot into Terry Pratchett recently, just for his really humanistic view on a lot of conflict. But yeah.
Terry Pratchett's so great.
Yeah, he is. Art-wise, I guess I'm influenced a lot by anime, obviously, because don't do that to you. But a really big influence of mine was Hayao Miyazaki and his film Princess Mononoke, because that was my first like feature film anime that I've ever seen. But yeah. So like I saw that when I was 10. I was like, oh my God, I love this. What is this? I got to get into this. And so that basically started my downward spiral into anime. Other than that, yeah, Ghibli. And then I started branching out into all these other movies and then other anime and so on and so forth. Right now, with working with SRC, I've been looking a lot at Frank Franzetta for composition stuff because I'm doing all the CG. I'm mostly doing CGs, but yeah, now I'm just looking at a lot of Frank Franzetta's artwork because other than all the naked men and women he's got in there, but his composition's really good. So yeah, that was another big influence that I just recently got into. Other than that, for now, who's next? Ab, I think.
Yeah, I think that would be me. I don't do a lot of writing, or at least I don't do as much as I should, and I've never really gone on and done much or finished a big writing project or anything, so I don't know what really affects my narrative style. But even just in terms of like phrasing and structure and things like that, like I'm a classics major. I take Latin and ancient Greek, and I learned more in 3 years of high school Latin about English grammar and things like that than in 12 years of English classes in American school system. So like taking other languages can affect so much how you think about the language that you speak naturally. And my grammatical phrasing and my sentence structure and everything now depends so much on what I've learned from taking Latin. Lots of just clauses within clauses, subjunctive phrasing. I use the subjunctive so much. There's tons of grammatical stuff like that. And this all comes from basically Ovid and Cicero and that shit.
Whew.
Big words.
Heavy stuff.
Okay, did I successfully swipe CR again, or did someone say it before me?
I think you're good, King.
Hold on.
You're good.
I feel like Emmy might have.
No, I didn't.
You didn't? Okay.
No.
She said she remembered something, but she didn't claim CRs.
Yeah, no. I was just, well, I could if you want.
Yeah, Emmy, talk.
Go.
I just remember like being in 6th grade, and that's when like I started reading like Edgar Allan Poe, because like there was a book in our school library that had like a bunch of like little short, and I was like, this is a pretty scary book for being in our elementary school library, but this is cool with me. And I just remember so much like how good he was at like dictating atmosphere. And like my favorite ones were either there was one where he like had this guy in the cellar, and he was like, he had him like chained to a wall, and he was like slowly like building the wall in front of him, and it's just like the sort of suspense that evoked really like stuck with me. And I remember like being really scared when I was done reading it. And then there was like the classic one where it was the Cask of Amontillado. that one. And then the really iconic one where like he puts the heart like under the floor.
The Telltale Heart.
The
Yes.
Telltale Heart is great, and there are so many parodies of it, and all the. It took me.
SpongeBob did a parody.
I know it took me It wasn't until like early high school when I like actually had like read the Telltale Heart. And then I watched that episode again, and I'm like, oh my god, that's Telltale Heart.
Yeah.
Oh my god! For Valentine's Day, sorry to turn this
No,
not
go
so
for
seriously,
it.
but for Valentine's Day, Tumblr did a thing where they put a heart next to the Tumblr logo, and it was faintly pulsing, and I saw a text post saying, like, oh man, it's bothering me so much that it's pulsing all the time. And someone else commented, like the Telltale Heart, I can hear it underneath the
It's the beating of his hideous heart.
Oh
The
my
Black
gosh.
Cat is a good one too.
Oh, that's
I don't think I ever read The Black Cat.
Yeah,
Oh, good one.
but like, so that was like a super good one for me, because I just like, you could really he was so good at like setting the tone and like everything like that. And like I remember years later, okay. I thought, okay, King was typing something in the chat, and I thought he was saying OP, like somebody was already talking, and then and then I'm like, oh, it's an Opa Gangnam Style joke. I don't care.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off that much.
King, you're fired.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. So anyway, there was this one, I should find the website again, but it's a thing where you copy like a selection of your writing and you paste it in, and then it will tell you like what famous writer's writing style it kind of resembles. I mean, you take it with a grain of salt, of course, but like, and I remember I put something of mine in, and I got Edgar Allan Poe, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. But then like I did it with other things, and then there were like other authors. I need to find the link again for it, because it's really fun just to like do for fun, because I mean, it obviously it has like an algorithm for like determining like your word choice and like your phrasing and how it compares to other like famous writers. But like, and I mean, it's just for fun. So anyway, that's my thing. Edgar Allan Poe, I love him. Too spooky.
Too spooky.
I'm done.
Okay, backing way up back to like Studio Ghibli. Hang on, let me type something real quick. Okay, back on Studio Ghibli. I distinctly remember when I was a kid, like back when VCRs were the pinnacle of entertainment, we would, I don't know if we like rented the tape or what, but we would watch Kiki's Delivery Service. And as a kid, I loved Kiki's Delivery Service, but I was like 5 when we were watching it, so I had no memory of what it was called. And then at some point, I heard about it again, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I looked it up, and I'm like, oh my god, that's the movie. That's like 20% of my childhood. And then I watched it again as an adult, and I'm just like, oh my god, the art, the storytelling, the English dub, because it was like the Disney version and all that, and it was interesting because at some point I also watched Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is another spectacular movie. I loved Nausicaa. I need to get my own copy of it because it was such a great movie. And I was watching it, and then it had like a special feature about like the origins of Studio Ghibli and all that. So I watched that because that sounded like a great idea to watch. And it was talking about like the history of like Studio Ghibli. And like one really cool thing I thought was, or one thing I heard was that like if you've seen Nausicaa, like near the end, the scene where like the giant god warrior is like half rebuilt and it's like all melty and it tries to shoot a laser but it sucks. That was apparently animated by a brand new animator to Studio Ghibli, and they wanted to like test his mettle, so they told him to animate that scene because they could already tell it was going to be a difficult scene. So they had him animate that scene, and it was a spectacular scene. The God Warrior was terrifying. And another thing, like back online with Kiki's Delivery Service, it was telling like the history of the films that were coming out and everything. And then it said like, and then Hayao Miyazaki went out into Japan and he spent several months sitting on park benches and paying particular attention to one specific thing, women's skirts. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I don't know when I got into hentai-related things, but okay, he's Hayao Miyazaki. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. And then, like, the next line they said was, and with that in mind, with all his sketches and observations, he made Kiki's Delivery Service. And I'm like, oh, yeah, her skirt was flapping all over the place. Yeah, way to go. Way to go, Miyazaki. That was a good move. All right, I think I'm done blabbering about Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. Now we're going to talk about the demo, which, to anyone that doesn't know, I'm just going to kind of give a preview of this and then people can talk about it if they feel like it. The current plan is for the demo of Summer Rose Court to be released in line with RTX, which is around July 4th and 6th, unless we change that, then someone needs to correct me so I seem like less of an idiot. But somewhere around there, we're going to release the demo. Hopefully people will try it out and tell us it's good. Or, in a way, hopefully they'll tell us what we screwed up on so we can fix it. And then we'll have Chrissy muscle her way into RTX. She'll hijack Monty's computer and she'll start playing SRC for Monty.
Oh, that's a secret? You're not supposed to share that?
Because now he knows.
Now
Okay, wait a
everyone
minute.
knows about my secret plan to infiltrate RTX and force everyone to play our fucking game.
Okay, but
that.
we need to change it to Codename. She's gonna do this to Bounty Neum instead.
We will infiltrate RTC and take Bounty Neum's computer to play the thing.
Oh my god, I'm such a dork. Like, we'll infiltrate RFL because TX is the postal code for Texas, so instead of RTX, it's RFL for Florida. I'm such a nerd.
Oh god. You know what we should talk about though is like.
Not yet. Zumbra's deciding on
that
something.
Is me. That is mine.
All right. Sorry.
Well, we're just interested in the programming, Zumbra, and you never tell us about it. You're just over there in your little cloud of programming.
The world of programming that like no one can access except you and whoever the other programmer is.
Yeah,
That would
whatever
be
you
Max.
do is
Max.
I don't know what to talk about without boring everyone.
It's not boring, we promise.
Okay, then you ask me a question, now answer it.
Okay, how has like prepping the demo gone? Like, what sort of issues have you run into, or like how's it coming along? How's it looking?
So, the current state of the demo is we've got practically all the assets there except for like we're missing a couple of CGs for like mostly fight scenes because those are very dynamic and they require lots of artwork. The general way that we've been working on the demo testing is we are looking at like, the visual novel as it currently is, and then We played through it a couple times. Ideally, the whole team should be doing this, but apparently just me and a couple other people are just doing this. Anyway, we play through and we sort of note, what looks wrong, what could be improved, and then we sort of file bugs, and then we note them down and say, this looks wrong, it might be better if we can do this instead. And we take notes on that, and then we sort of like improve them, and then we show, okay, now that I've made this better, how does this look? And then we sort of like discuss the feedback for that. Some of the things that have required the most discussion is like when we write, the way we do it is we have a bunch of writers write each scene separately, and then we splice them together, right? We stitch them up, and that's like our act 1 or whatever. When we put it into the script, we have to figure out like how to present the information to the user, right? We have to show like which dialogue's being shown, and which backgrounds or CGs we should show at each particular section. And sometimes we note that like some things don't match. Like we had a certain CG, and Ruby's clothes, she wasn't wearing her cloak basically, but in the rest of the scene she was wearing her cloak, and we sort of like realized that last second, like crap, that's something we didn't plan for. It's things like that, like continuity issues, and showing how can we present the information to the user in the most smooth manner. So yeah, that's the gist of the demo, I think. Oh, thank you, Kemi. Kemi's talking about how my voice was so smooth.
It really is.
Oh no, wait, not podcast. Sorry, I'm looking for the snapshot and I'm talking to myself.
Okay.
You had a question.
Oh yeah, like this is for me, and it's a good question that other people might be wondering. So it's good to get this information out here. How are we going to release the demo? Are we just going to post like download links on Tumblr, or are we going to be like email us and we'll send you it? Or
I haven't thought about it too much. I had a couple ideas. Actually, probably just one idea. We could upload it someplace and then just like give out the download links on the Tumblr blog, on our SRC blog. Yeah, that's the only idea I had. Ha ha ha. I think that'll work. That should work.
Yeah, no, that sounds.
should.
Yeah.
We should probably figure that out before 2 weeks from now.
Yes, we should.
We'll figure it out July 3rd,
Drop that on the to-do list.
but that's only when I'm in command of things.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, well, we're gonna keep Kemi from freaking out for another couple minutes because Emmy and I would like to have a short discussion on things we have learned
Ooh,
while
this is a good
working.
talk.
Well, okay, well then we'll probably keep Kemi from it for even longer. Well, things we have learned while working on and with SRC, and Emmy can go right after me because the main thing I can think of right now is really short. Because the main thing I have learned from the infinite wisdom of Kemi Colin is do not draw a hot Yang, draw a handsome Yang.
Also, real quick about how are we gonna give the game out? I also have a Reddit account, so
Yeah, share that shit on Reddit.
Oh.
yeah, there's a very active Ruby community on Reddit. They are into shipping, they are into fan projects, they're into other things. So I'm just gonna also put a notice out on the Reddit thingy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
Yeah,
at
I'm
least,
planning on sharing it on
On
the website
Reddit.
too.
and I'm sure at least half of us have DeviantArt accounts, so we could share it on DeviantArt.
I haven't been on
Like,
there in ages.
I go
don't
on there.
wanna touch that place.
Yeah,
have a
I would not
Neopets
touch
account.
that place.
I need to check it because I was messaging a guy. Of course, he hasn't messaged me in a while. I'm talking to
I mean,
myself
what if
again.
you-
Okay, yeah, Emmy, you go before we. Neopets, brilliant.
Oh, God.
Very astute.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I have feedback. I'm gonna mute.
So anyway, like things we learned doing Summer Rose Court and stuff. Like it's like people have read my writing before, like my friends and stuff, and then they'll be like, "Oh, you should go into writing as like a career and blah blah blah." And I've always said like, no, I don't want to turn something I love into like something work that I have to do all the time, or maybe I won't love it anymore. And so like that's sort of been like my prevailing reason for like trying to my reason for trying to like not mix work and play too much, and so with Summer Rose Court, like it's kind of a happy medium because like with the whole like, well, I don't want to do it as just work all the time or it's no fun. I'm also realizing that like even if it was just as I wouldn't want my writing to be all work all the time, like the opposite holds true. I don't want it to be all play all the time either, because it's not as fun. Like I really like Summer Rose Court because there's sort of like a balance in between like work and play. Like there's deadlines that like we sort of adhere to, and so and so it's nice to like be able to be like, okay, well I have to do this by this time, and I can have like my creative freedom between that time, but like I should do something by the deadline because I work better with the deadline. Like when we had one back in May, and I was like, okay, I can do this, and I turned it in, and then I felt really good about myself, and then I just had like time to like reread things and like collect my thoughts and sort of vegetate with all of the information.
Yeah, weren't you done like way before the deadline? Like I feel like you had yours the next day, and I was like, what is happening?
Well, I remember we were in the writers chat, and I think like Chrissy posted a thing. She's like, oh hey, just a reminder, the deadline is on. It was like it was really beginning of May, like the 2nd, I want to say, but like and it was like near the end of April, and I was like, oh, it's like the 28th right now. I should probably do it. And so I turned it in like a day early, and then I was like, oh, it looks like I'm gonna be waiting a while.
Yeah, it was really impressive. I was like, wow, you really want to, the fact that you got it in so soon really like cemented the fact that I was really glad that I asked. That I don't want to say I okayed it, but Dory definitely was talking to me like, should we have Emmy on the team? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. So that really was like, yeah, we made a good decision.
And then the decision to add me alternates between decent and terrible.
Yeah, get out of here, dude. Get out.
You're fired.
You're fired.
I fired like 5 times.
King is always fired.
I'm just permanently fired, but everyone's too lazy to actually kick me out. I was never actually hired.
You just showed up.
I just kind of showed up. I had photoshops, and you were like, whatever, he can stay.
Tucker wanted to say something?
Yes.
Yeah, sort of on deadlines, the same thing. Like, we had the music deadline for getting in for the demo version back in May. And with that, I had spent most of the end of the school semester and then the entire weekend before the deadline working on finishing up Yang's, which had like 6 or 7 different tracks that were layered over each other on the recording and writing and things like that. And then I was like, wait, we still have Ruby's due tomorrow. And we had done some writing on it beforehand, but it was kind of not thought out and finished, and it was just having that deadline that I had to kind of like buckle down and be like, okay, work it out and get the final process done, or it's not going to happen. So it was definitely like a very big driving force for actually doing the work, is having a deadline.
Definitely, I can do that. I get that from school. Like having a deadline is definitely a motivator. What I've learned on SRC is I work fairly well conceptually. My big thing was just sort of, I don't even know how to word it. I don't know how to word, working out of concept, you know what I mean? Like conceptually, it's like, oh yeah, working with other people is nice. But then
Getting down to
actually
business.
there you go. Actually working with other people has always proven difficult, because once I'm like, I will be dead set on something when I start working on it, but I know not everyone has that same, like everybody works in different ways, but because I don't know if I'm just like some anal retentive or
No.
like
The
that.
same thing happened to me because I had this thing in my mind, and I've spoken about this before. I had this thing in my mind that I wanted Weiss to be introduced at once, because that was how I would do it. If I were writing this story by myself, I would immediately introduce Weiss alongside Glinda. And I got it into my head somehow that Weiss was going to be introduced in Act 1. And the other writers were like, no. She's getting introduced with everybody else during the recruitment phase, and I had a lot of trouble dealing with that. I mean, obviously, you know, we didn't cause too much tension, but internally, I'm like, no, this is wrong. We need to do it this way. We need to do it my way. Mine.
Oh no.
You know, shit like that.
I'm very much anal retentive about certain things, particularly regarding like art aspect. We did the new recruitment, and we looked through the art and we picked people and like that sort of thing, which is good and great. But my concern was, because it's what happened with some of the first art team, is how much of it is hype. Like when you first get started on something, you're like, oh man, hype. And then it just sort of fades off. And like my big concern was like, are we just going to like, you know, like how long will this productivity last? You know what I mean? So it was always sort of like I don't know where I'm trying to head. Where I'm trying to head is that part of it with me is the just learning to work with other people, learning to work with other people's working styles.
It's hard.
It's very
harder. It's harder than it should be. You would think that it's like more people equals the work gets done faster. And to a certain extent it does. But sometimes it's like more people, more problems.
Luckily with our new art team, they're all lovely. We have not had one single problem with our new art team.
Excellent.
Which is great. And like we didn't really have, the only problem we had, and I'm sure that part of it with the old art team was, oh well, it's school and we're really busy, but nobody talked. Like the art chat was dead for months, despite me and Dory being like, hey, tell us what you're doing, because at the time it was literally me and Dory doing the work.
Oh,
for the
Yeah, I
art
remember.
team.
wow.
And that also ties into what you said about hype, because
Yeah,
sometimes
how
the
much
hype does
was hype?
die down. The hype dies down, and doing the work is a chore, and it's understandable. But
It was
you know, it comes back. We keep it going. We keep
Yeah.
it alive.
once
because
we got the
wanna
new
see-
art team and we saw this new blood coming in, the art chat blew up again. We were all like, oh man, this is gonna be great. And every time Frump posts something in there, we all blow up. It's like, oh my god.
From Ollie. And then they post something in the main chat, and the rest of us just explode.
Whoop.
From
Shannon
mad
posted hers.
genius.
When Shannon posted hers, it exploded. I saw it afterwards. I wasn't here
Oh, yeah.
when it first exploded, but I saw it after, and I was like, holy shit.
Was
Yeah.
that in the art chat or the main chat?
This was our chat, where
Yeah,
basically
this was our chat.
MJ
It blew up.
and
Oh,
I
man.
just basically went nuts.
Oh yeah.
And it needs to be a fly on that wall.
And that's the hardest part, I think, and that's what I've learned the most with SRC is, you know, trying to work with other people and being able to cut people when they aren't working. That was really hard. Dory was not feeling it, so like I went ahead and did that. Like I talked to the people who weren't able to, you know, work with us anymore because they just were too busy. And I'm sure none of them loved the project any less. It was just that they were too busy. But knowing how to work with all these different working styles and knowing when somebody isn't working out is really what I've learned a lot of.
Mhm.
So, yes, Frump, it is all about communication.
Okay, since I have CR now, I was going to say the exact same thing. Most of what I learned was communication. Kemi said most of it. So I work at a company that works with a lot of other people, sometimes in different countries. Like I've had to talk to people in China and India, and time zone differences are a bit hectic sometimes. That's fine because we can communicate with each other like over phone calls or email, and we can coordinate things pretty well because we're professional, and we have like standards, and everyone sets things up, and we have like conference rooms and things like that. When I'm working with people over the internet, like you guys, it's like a little bit different. I'm not quite sure what to expect. Communicating is a bit different because I'm not sure what the expectations are. Like initially setting up the things like, I need you guys to give me your assets so I can put them in the visual novel. We didn't really have like a good system for that until like a long time later, where it's like previously what happened was like there was the main chat where everyone was in it, and then I was just like sort of monitoring it, and then people were just like pasting things into it, like, oh, here's this background image I was working on, like, that's great, and I sort of like take that and I put it in, and I mock it out in the visual novel, and then show a screenshot of that, and that builds up to the hype, you know, like what Chrissy was talking about earlier, where just I feel like this is a hype engine, really. That's what how SRC really starts getting going. It's just like we just show something, people get excited, and you just keep building on that over and over. But yeah, we didn't have a really good system for that until I guess I said out of the blue, like, hey, you know, I'm just going to set up a system because we don't really have one. Just like email me your stuff or IM me on Skype or whatever. So it's like the little communication issues like that. Those are the biggest lessons I've learned since starting SRC.
Right on. Go ahead next.
I think I did. I was also going to talk about working together because it seems like I accidentally ended up writing the most scenes that required CGs. Like, I'm sure there were other scenes that needed them, but it seemed like all of my scenes needed like 4 CGs. And Frump is mad at me because she ended up with most of my CGs. And the thing about working together with that is that, of course, when I'm writing, I'm imagining things in my head. So I write down what I'm imagining in my head. But at that point, it's written word, and it's pretty much entirely open to interpretation. So Frump, or I think Wally might have done a CG or 2 for me. They come in and they read the scene, and then they see it. They probably see it a little differently than how I imagined it. Like,
yeah, because we gotta do all the art for it, so we gotta imagine out how the scene will pan out. So it's been interesting.
It has, and like, just, I don't know if it was I think it was just last night. Maybe the day before, but one scene, okay, I almost actually described the scene. Let me work this out in my head. Okay, I imagine the scene happening a specific way where so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that, but then I believe it was Frump.
Yep.
She made 2 different CGs, and she was asking which one we liked better.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her that I liked the one because that was more like what I was imagining. But then she said she thought the other one was better because that went with what was in the script more.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that it's another sort of, it's a slightly more convoluted communication theme thing. Like Kemi just gave me a good word for it, art translation.
Oh.
Where taking my printed word and turning it into art is not necessarily that easy because we're all imagining different things. All right, I think I'm good. So now Kemi can talk about art translation.
Yeah, art translation. I can't believe I didn't bring it up. Because whenever I've had to translate word into art, it's been my word into art. So I know what I'm thinking. I know what I'm planning. And working with other people has been interesting on that. Like, I will be working pretty intensely, I assume, with Chrissy, because Chrissy, you're in charge of Enabler, correct? That's what your bit is.
Was there even any doubt?
I'll be working.
I am in charge of Enabler, and I'm in charge of Blake
recruitment. Yeah.
recruitment, and all of Enabler.
Yeah, I'll be working fairly intensely with Chrissy on Enabler, and part of the difference here is I know Chrissy pretty well. So if I'm drawing something, I'm like, hey, what were you imagining for this CG of this walking the incest line?
Oh God! Don't say.
Okay. Here we go.
This one.
They're not really related in this, though. It's fine.
It's okay.
It's fine.
But it's still
fine.
hinting at it.
In the way it's framed, if you go down it, is that they both sort of thought it was an arranged marriage and less relation. So, like, you know.
Yeah. The
Anyway.
way I wanted to play it is that they just sort of thought they were going to be together forever. It's, you know.
It's cute.
You play the game.
Gay
Play the game
as
and you'll see.
hell. Anyway, So I know Chrissy, so I can go to Chrissy and be like, hey, this particular CG, what were you expecting as far as, like, what were you imagining? But then when you're talking to, like if I was doing a CG for, like, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable talking to Emmy, too. Emmy's a sweetheart. But if I were doing a CG for somebody I don't really talk to that much as far as writing goes, I would be like, huh. You know, like, I wouldn't know what they want, but I'd know what I'm sort of imagining via reading it. And there can be some points of contention because as artists, both writers and visual artists or artists, as artists, even if we've managed to get ourselves to the point where we can detach ourselves from our work and, like, the criticism of our work isn't criticism of us, which is important to do as an artist, you are still fiercely protective of what you're imagining. And, like, if writers have written something and they imagine something one way, like Chrissy was saying, she was so fiercely protective of Weiss being introduced first because that's what she had always imagined. That's what she had thought.
I was also sort of in the middle of writing some fic for it, too. At that point, the whole script writing thing wasn't, you know, a thing yet.
Right.
But I was like, oh, I'm going to write this idea of how this goes down. And the way I thought it was going to go down does not happen. And I was so upset for a while. I mean, I didn't pitch a huge fit, but privately to Kemi, I whined a lot.
It's true.
I whined so much to Kemi.
And, you know, there's nothing inherently wrong about that. Like, it's, I'm sure we all have things that we've envisioned differently for SRC, but the end product will be amazing because there's so many different voices, and it's not just us having this grandiose idea and being like, this is the idea I'm going with, like, that's it, that's done. Because there's so many different layers it has to get through before it gets to the final product that, you know, it'll be great, but there's always going to be that. I mean, we don't scream at each other about it, but you can always tell when a writer's like, I imagine this differently. And the artist is like, well, I'm sorry. Like, this is what came out. Particularly with, I was so worried for Frump with that CG. I was like, no way, we cannot make Frump repaint this. No fucking way. Oh man, Frump. I was so scared for you.
No. I was scared for me too.
I was so afraid for you.
Well, I mean, I would have repainted it if I had to, because all I'd have to do was, you know, just add another layer and do it. But yeah, at that time, well, I think when I was doing all those the fight CG, that was right at the end where my finals were coming in. So I was like, oh yeah, don't do that to me right now. I have to take some time. Hold on. But yeah, no. I think I think if I have to change it, then, you know, I might as well, just for consistency's sake. But yeah, no, go ahead.
Right, yeah, no, Emmy is actually Ruby Rose, just so everybody's aware. Actual sweetheart.
Squeal.
Yeah, the squeal was perfectly timed.
It was great. Yeah, wait, there's still one more thing, and one more thing that we need to talk about.
Kemi can have her meltdown now.
As I'm sure many of us are aware, Barbara recently joined Tumblr, and at first, like, there was something that I saw about it. People were like, "Oh, Barb joined Tumblr," and I didn't know if it was true, but I decided to post a Yang sprite anyway and be like, "Hey, welcome to Tumblr." The only reason I know it is accurate and true is because Barbara fucking Dunkelman liked our Yang sprite. Like, it's the first like on that Yang sprite that I posted. The first one. She was the first one.
First one?
Nice.
The first
Damn.
I posted it, and there it is. It's Barbara Dunkelman like this. I was like, fuck! Like, I flipped out. Yeah, no, Aaron reblogged Blake, Wally's Blake at one point, which is awesome. And also evidence to the fact that the Ruby team knows what we're doing here. But Barb liking my buff, handsome Yang is very validating, because I haven't heard it yet, but I'm sure there are people who would be like, I don't know, this Yang's too buff.
He's too buff. Ew. Muscles on women are gross.
Exactly. And now that Barb likes it, I'm vindicated because you, Yang. And I had a post, I text Chrissy the minute it happened. I text Chrissy the second Barb liked my Yang. And I'm pretty sure I freaked out in the SRC chat. I must have.
A little.
Yeah, no, but that was a big moment. Barb liked Yang.
It was a well warranted freak out. It was no one was gonna judge you for that freak out.
I was there. I would freak out here more, but I would just go on for days and days. But yeah, Barb liked my muscly, handsome Yang, and that's good.
Shout out.
Wait,
Shout
I
out
had
to
one quick
Gwen.
thing. I had a quick thing about buff ladies.
Go ahead, go on, buff ladies.
Because, like, I feel like I've mentioned this before, but, like, I'll say it again because I still think it's funny. Like, where with buff ladies, like, with the main one I can think of is Serena Williams. I, like, look at her and I'm like, oh my god, she could rip me in half, and I would love every millisecond of her ripping me in half.
She could step on me, and I would say thank you.
Yes.
That's my feeling on that weightlifter. God, what's her name? The pixie cut like a. Oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
Samantha Wright, I think is her name.
Yeah.
She
Wasn't
could
there-
snap me in two, and I would be 100% okay with that. So
Like
okay.
actual in real life Ruby Rose, though.
Oh man. No, that's Emmy.
shoulders.
Emmy is actual in real life.
She
But
can
still,
be
like when I
Nora.
think of Ruby's like body type, it's this
Oh,
tiny
yeah.
person lifting huge things.
It's great. It's
She
great.
can be
Like
actual
my
real life
biceps
Nora
are kind of
Valkyrie.
good now because I have to pick up the kids all the time, but that's about it.
Damn.
It's okay. Everything else about you is literally Ruby. So
It's true.
All right, do we have shout-outs or
Barb. We're shouting out
Yes.
to Barb.
we
shout out to Barbara Dunkelman. Please play our game.
Yes. Thank you so much for liking
Shout
my
out and
Yang.
fun.
It's incredibly flattering and intimidating that
bring
you've
us
seen
Aaron's puppy?
it. Yeah, shout out to Aaron's puppy, absolutely.
Yeah, shout out to Aaron's puppy because it's adorable and I almost cried actual tears looking at it. It's so cute.
Yeah. Shout out to Aaron's puppy. Did we shout out to Aaron when she reblogged our Blake? Shout
I
out
think
to
we-
We did.
I think we freaked out about it, but we didn't really shout out about
we
it.
freaked out about Wally's Blake. I remember ranting for a good 10 minutes about how handsome that Blake was.
So beautiful.
I know.
Dat Blake, though.
Shout out to Tamora Pierce for existing.
Shout out to, shout out to everything. Every single
Shout
person.
out to Monty Oum once again for being
Bounty
awesome.
Neum.
Shout out to Bounty Neum for being awesome and creating Ruby and letting us love the thing.
Yes.
The Thing.
The thing. The thing.
Mayonnaise Gajinka, Hot Cat Girl.
Mayonnaise Gajinka, Hot Cat Girl, Actual Amazon, Tiny Pixie.
Cute main character's hot sister.
Main
The kid's hot.
It's the kid's
The
hot
kid's hot
sister.
sister, that was her name.
The kid's hot sister. That is my favorite comment. Can we link to that? Because everybody needs to see it.
It's
Do
the
we
kid's
have
hot
it?
sister.
Kid's
Oh,
hot
yeah, I
sister.
remember
I'm
the
gonna
comment.
get me some of that.
Yeah, basically.
That was such a great thing.
It was amazing. But yeah, I think that's our shout outs, and
I think that's a wrap.
I'm gonna sign off. This is Kemi signing off after freaking out about Barb.
This is Chrissy signing off, and I'll see you again when I see ya.
This is Emmy signing off, and it's great to be back. Goodbye.
Okay. This is From signing off, and it's great to be on again. Adios.
And this is the Newmies signing off on this not the last SRC podcast, this one, good God.